trust God, that love is everywhere, that we are here to be the perfect givers of love and receivers of love, and love will have the final word.
Where you are today in your life is a direct residual of what you've been believing all your life. So when you understand that, and if you're not where it is that you want to be, then we got to do something about changing our belief systems. I worked in a treatment center, a place called Amity Foundation, for about 10 years as the chef and the food service director. And I remember talking to a guy one time. He was working in the kitchen and helping out. And he said, "Hey, you know what, Sherry?" I said, we were talking, having a conversation. I said, "You know how it is when you go to the beach?" He said, "I've never been to the beach." I said, "Really?" I said, "How long have you been in L.A.?" He said, 16 years. Right? He said, "Every time I get out of jail, man, I go right downtown and I never make it to the beach." So his paradigm is quite narrow. You see, all he ever saw was downtown, the hustling and the bustling of downtown, never got to see the beach. And so when we began to expand our horizons, and expand our awareness, we began to see things differently. For a long time, we were taught that the earth was flat, right? And so it was taught in Europe, but even in Africa, they knew at the time that the world was round. And so when we believe certain things for a long time, but I always say that those of us who are involved will eventually evolve. Some of you sitting here today may believe that you're an addict and alcoholic and you suffer from a disease for which there is no known cure. Or you may believe that I'm only human, but I'm here to tell you that you're a spiritual being having a human experience. That there's a spiritual aspect of you that's greater than anything that you could ever experience. So I want to believe more than anything else. And I want to tell myself that we stand in the belief that there is a perfect power within each of us that is constantly conspiring for our good. What would your life be like when you began to understand and believe that there is a universal conspiracy that's conspiring for your good? That life really is on your side to do wonderful and magnificent things. After having a year clean, I had a massive asthma attack in Balboa Hospital in San Diego while I was in the Navy. And they put me in a room with two old gentlemen who were dying of cancer, coughing all night. One of them had a hole in his neck and was still smoking out the hole, right? And I mean, all night long, all they did was cough, right? And I had been telling myself, man, I got a year clean. I would love to stop smoking, but I just couldn't put down them Newports, you know? And so I watched these guys, and they just made it so painful for me watching them that I made a vow that I'm never putting a cigarette in my mouth ever again. I don't want to go out like this. I got a year clean, and I'm not letting cigarettes take me out. And so when we began to attribute pain to smoking and pain to using, then it will become the motivating force in our life. And I'm here to tell you that as long as you identify with any kind of pleasure with getting high, you will keep getting high. That's how it works. As long as you say, well, man, if I could probably get a hit and just do it on Friday night, and the other nights I'm going to be cool. But until you, and let me tell you something, it's real easy. And what you do an inventory process, and this is how you get out of that. You begin to start identifying with all the miserable things that drugs put you into. They make me lose jobs. They make me forget about my goals. I make me break up relationships. And if you can list all the worst parts about drug addiction, you'll never go back to it. But see, the problem is most of us have selective amnesia. And we want to remember the good stuff. We don't want to remember and rationalize and justify the most insane nonsense until nonsense begins to make good sense. Right? Right? I have this thing where I convince myself every day that everything that happens to me is the best possible thing that could happen to me. Now, I have an experience going on, and I had this tenant living in my house some time ago, and they were just unruly, unclean, and just did everything to break the rules of the house. And so I took it upon myself to say that this person has to go. So I wound up going through court procedures, and it took everything in the world to get this person out of my house. But it kept taking long, but what happened along the way, I began to get to have more compassion for this person. And I believe that it was designed to do that. That they wasn't supposed to go no earlier than they go until I learned the lessons of unconditional love and compassion. That I began to see them differently. And by the time it was time for them to go, I was almost ready to say, hey, you can stay. You know? You really can stay if you want to stay. You know? You just have to clean up your room a little bit, you know what I mean? But, I mean, this is how it works. And so we can convince ourselves every day that everything that's happening to us really is the best thing that can happen to us. And that everything and everybody is here to be a lesson and a blessing in our life. We just got to ask ourselves, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn in this? What is the blessing in this situation? No matter what you're going through, right? You can see the worst case scenario, or you can contemplate the facts of life from its highest points of view and see the best case scenario that life has to offer you.